In the quiet town of Willow Creek, nestled deep in the mist-shrouded forests, lies a tale as old as time itself. Legends whisper of an abandoned mansion, its halls echoing with a phantom's lullaby, a haunting melody that beckons the curious and brave alike. Join us on a chilling journey as four friends unravel the enigmatic secrets of Willow Creek. Prepare to explore ancient rituals, confront malevolent spirits, and unearth the dark truths that have plagued this cursed town for generations. This is Phantom's Lullaby, unveiling the haunting secrets of Willow Creek. The moon hung low over Willow Creek, its pale light casting eerie shadows over the dilapidated houses that lined the deserted street. Once a thriving town, Willow Creek was now a ghostly remnant of its former self, abandoned by its inhabitants who fled in terror years ago. The reason for their flight was whispered in hushed tones, the haunting of Willow Creek. At the heart of this spectral tale was the old Willow Creek Manor, a grand but decaying mansion perched atop a hill overlooking the town. It was said that on quiet nights, a haunting lullaby could be heard drifting from the manor, luring the curious and the unwary. Many who ventured inside were never seen again, their fates shrouded in mystery and fear. One summer evening, a group of friends from the nearby city decided to investigate the legends of Willow Creek. Among them were Sarah, a local historian fascinated by the town's dark past, Mark, an adventurous skeptic who dismissed ghost stories as mere superstition, Emily, a sensitive artist with a deep connection to the spiritual world, and James, an aspiring filmmaker eager to capture the supernatural on camera. They arrived at Willow Creek just as the sun was setting, casting an orange glow over the desolate landscape. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding, but the group was determined to uncover the truth. As they approached the manor, its imposing silhouette against the twilight sky sent shivers down their spines. "Are we really going to do this?" Emily asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Of course," Mark replied, trying to sound confident. "It's just an old house. There's nothing to be afraid of." Sarah glanced at the manor, her eyes filled with a mixture of excitement and dread. "Let's stick together and be careful. We don't know what we might find in there." With a collective deep breath, they pushed open the creaking iron gate and made their way up the overgrown path to the front door. The manor loomed above them, its broken windows like empty eye sockets staring into their souls. The door was ajar, as if inviting them inside. James set up his camera, the red recording light a tiny beacon in the growing darkness. "All right, let's do this." They stepped inside the manor, the floorboards groaning under their weight. The air was musty, filled with the scent of decay and abandonment. Cobwebs hung from the ceiling, and dust motes danced in the beams of their flashlights. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional creak and rustle. As they explored the manor, Sarah pointed out various historical artifacts and relics that hinted at the mansion's opulent past. "This place must have been magnificent in its heyday," she mused, running her fingers over a dusty portrait of a stern-looking man. Emily, meanwhile, felt an unsettling presence in the air. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. "Do you feel that?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Feel what?" Mark asked, rolling his eyes. Like we're not alone." James captured every moment on camera, hoping to catch a glimpse of the supernatural. "Let's head upstairs. I heard the most activity happens in the bedrooms." The group ascended the grand staircase, its banister adorned with intricate carvings. As they reached the top, a chilling melody began to fill the air. It was the lullaby, soft and haunting, echoing through the empty halls. The friends exchanged nervous glances, their hearts pounding in their chests. "Where is that coming from?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. They followed the sound down a long corridor, the music growing louder with each step. It led them to a door at the end of the hall, slightly ajar. The lullaby seemed to emanate from within. "Should we go in?" Mark asked, his bravado wavering. "We have to," Sarah said, steeling herself. "We need to know the truth." They pushed open the door and entered a room bathed in moonlight. In the center stood an old, ornate crib, its wooden frame covered in dust. The lullaby was louder now, almost deafening, but there was no visible source of the music. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them, and the lullaby ceased, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. The friends were trapped, their flashlights flickering as the temperature in the room plummeted. "What the hell is going on?" Mark shouted, panic rising in his voice. Before anyone could answer, a spectral figure materialized before them. It was a woman, her ethereal form glowing faintly in the darkness. She wore a tattered dress, and her eyes were hollow, filled with an ancient sorrow. "Who are you?" Emily asked, her voice shaking. The ghostly woman didn't respond, but her gaze was fixed on the crib. She began to sing the lullaby once more, her voice filled with longing and despair. The friends watched in horror as the crib began to rock gently, as if an invisible child lay within. Sarah stepped forward, her curiosity overpowering her fear. "What happened here? Why are you haunting this place?" The woman's eyes met Sarah's, and in that moment, Sarah felt a flood of emotions: love, loss, and an overwhelming grief. She understood then that the ghost was a mother searching for her lost child. "We need to help her," Sarah said, turning to her friends. "She won't find peace until she's reunited with her baby." "But how?" Mark asked, his skepticism giving way to concern. James, ever the filmmaker, captured the scene with a mixture of awe and terror. "We have to find out what happened to the child. Maybe there's something in the manor that can give us a clue." The friends began to search the room, sifting through old letters, photographs, and journals. They discovered that the manor had once belonged to the Branson family, a wealthy couple who had lost their infant daughter, Eliza, under mysterious circumstances. The mother, consumed by grief, had died shortly after, and it was her spirit that now haunted the manor, endlessly searching for her child. As they pieced together the tragic story, the lullaby grew fainter, as if the spirit was listening to their every word. They realized that the only way to end the haunting was to find Eliza's remains and reunite them with her mother. The search led them to the manor's basement, a dark and foreboding place filled with forgotten relics and hidden secrets. As they descended the creaky stairs, the air grew colder, and the sense of unease intensified. "Stay close," Sarah whispered, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. In the far corner of the basement, they found a small, hidden compartment. Inside was a tiny coffin, covered in dust and cobwebs. Sarah's hands trembled as she opened it, revealing the skeletal remains of an infant. "This must be Eliza," she said softly, her voice breaking. The friends carried the coffin back to the room where the ghostly mother waited. As they placed the remains in the crib, the spirit's form began to glow brighter, her sorrowful expression softening into one of gratitude and peace. "Thank you," the ghost whispered, her voice echoing through the room. "My baby is finally home." With that, the spirit began to fade, her form dissolving into the moonlight. The lullaby ceased, replaced by a profound silence that felt almost sacred. The temperature in the room returned to normal, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The friends stood in stunned silence, processing the events that had just transpired. They had uncovered the truth behind the haunting of Willow Creek and brought peace to a tormented soul. As they left the manor, the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the town. Willow Creek still bore the scars of its haunted past, but the air felt lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted. Sarah, Mark, Emily, and James vowed to never forget their experience, knowing that they had witnessed something extraordinary. They had ventured into the unknown and emerged with a story that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. But their adventure was far from over. As they drove away from Willow Creek, a sense of unease lingered in the air. Unbeknownst to them, the spirit of the mother had left behind a final message, a cryptic warning etched into the walls of the manor: beware the phantom's lullaby, for it is but one of many secrets that lie hidden in the shadows of Willow Creek. The friends had only scratched the surface of the town's mysteries, and as they would soon discover, the haunting of Willow Creek was far from over. The drive back to the city was silent, each of them lost in their thoughts. The experience had shaken them, but it also bound them together in a way that few things could. They knew that they had only uncovered part of the mystery, and curiosity gnawed at them, pulling them back to Willow Creek. A week passed, and the group met again at Sarah's apartment to review the footage James had captured. The video revealed chilling details they hadn't noticed in the moment: ghostly figures moving in the background, whispers in the darkness, and, most unsettling of all, the phantom lullaby weaving through the silence. As they watched, the final message etched into the walls of the manor loomed in their minds. Beware the phantom's lullaby suggested that there were deeper, darker secrets in Willow Creek. Sarah, unable to let it go, began to delve into historical records, hoping to find more about the town's past. "Look at this," Sarah said one evening, spreading out old newspaper clippings and documents across the table. "There's a pattern of disappearances and tragedies that dates back to the founding of Willow Creek." "How far back are we talking?" Mark asked, leaning over to look at the papers. "The late 1800s, Sarah replied. "There was a series of strange deaths and disappearances, always accompanied by reports of a haunting lullaby." Emily shivered. "It's like the whole town is cursed." James, ever the documentarian, saw this as an opportunity. "We need to go back and investigate further. There's more to this story, and we have to find it." Reluctantly, Mark agreed. "But we have to be more prepared this time. If there's something truly dangerous there, we need to be ready." The group spent the next few days gathering equipment, stronger flashlights, recording devices, and even some basic ghost hunting tools. They knew the risks, but were driven by a need to uncover the truth. On a cloudy afternoon, they made their way back to Willow Creek. The town was as desolate as before, but there was an unsettling feeling in the air, as if the town itself was aware of their presence. They decided to start with the town records, housed in the old library that had somehow survived the abandonment. The library was a relic of the past, filled with dusty books and forgotten knowledge. Sarah led the way, her historian's instincts guiding her through the stacks. "Here," she said, pulling out an old ledger. "This lists the residents of Willow Creek and notable events. Let's see if we can find any connections." As they pored over the records, a chilling pattern emerged. The names of those who had disappeared or died under mysterious circumstances seemed to be linked by one common factor: each had lived in the manor at some point in their lives. "It can't be a coincidence," Emily said, her voice hushed. "There's something about that manor." Their research pointed to one family in particular, the Lockwoods. The Lockwood family had been prominent in Willow Creek's early days, and it was their mansion that had later become Willow Creek Manor. The records hinted at dark rituals and secret societies, but much of the information was vague or missing. "We need to find out more about the Lockwoods," Mark said. "Maybe their history will explain the haunting." That evening, they returned to the manor. The air was thick with anticipation and dread as they crossed the threshold once more. The interior was just as they had left it, but the oppressive atmosphere seemed even more intense. They split up to cover more ground, each taking a different part of the manor. Sarah and James headed to the attic, hoping to find old journals or letters that might shed light on the Lockwood secrets. Emily and Mark explored the basement, looking for hidden compartments or artifacts that might have been missed during their first visit. In the attic, Sarah and James found an old trunk filled with letters and diaries. They began to sift through the brittle pages, piecing together the fragmented story of the Lockwood family. The journals spoke of a deep obsession with the occult and a pact made with a mysterious entity known only as the Phantom. "This is it," Sarah whispered. "The source of the haunting. The Lockwoods must have summoned this phantom, and it's been haunting the manor ever since." Meanwhile, in the basement, Emily and Mark discovered a hidden door behind a stack of crates. It led to a small chamber, its walls covered in strange symbols and diagrams. In the center of the room was an altar, stained with dark, dried blood. "This must be where they conducted their rituals," Mark said, his voice echoing in the confined space. As they examined the altar, the temperature in the room plummeted, and a chilling wind swept through the basement. The Phantom lullaby began to play, faint at first but growing louder with each passing moment. "Guys, get up here!" Mark shouted into his walkie-talkie. Sarah and James rushed down from the attic, their faces pale. "We found something in the journals," Sarah said breathlessly. "The Lockwoods made a pact with an entity they called the Phantom. It required sacrifices, and the haunting is its way of collecting." The lullaby grew louder, almost deafening, and the air crackled with energy. The friends stood together, trying to make sense of the information. "We have to break the pact," Emily said. "It's the only way to stop this." "But how?" Mark asked, frustration evident in his voice. "The journals mentioned a ritual," Sarah said. "We need to perform it in reverse, to banish the Phantom." They quickly gathered the items listed in the journals: candles, a silver dagger, and an ancient tome filled with incantations. As they set up the ritual space, the manor seemed to come alive, the walls vibrating with an unseen force. Emily, who had a natural affinity for the spiritual, took the lead in the ritual. She chanted the incantations, her voice strong and unwavering despite the fear gripping her heart. The others followed her lead, focusing all their energy on the task at hand. The lullaby reached a fever pitch, and the room shook violently. Shadows twisted and writhed around them, the very essence of the Phantom resisting their efforts. But Emily pressed on, her voice growing louder, more commanding. With a final, powerful incantation, the air seemed to explode with light. The lullaby ceased abruptly, and a deafening silence filled the room. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the manor seemed to exhale, as if releasing a long-held breath. The friends stood in stunned silence, the reality of what they had just accomplished slowly sinking in. The Phantom was gone, the pact broken. But as they gathered their things to leave, Sarah noticed something on the altar, a small, intricately carved box. She opened it to find a key and a note, written in an elegant, flowing script. "The true secret of Willow Creek lies beneath," the note read. "Use the key to unlock the final mystery." Exhausted but driven by a renewed sense of purpose, the friends knew their journey was far from over. The key in Sarah's hand was a promise of deeper secrets and darker truths waiting to be uncovered in the hidden depths of Willow Creek. Their adventure had only just begun. The friends stared at the key and the note, the weight of their discovery sinking in. The final mystery of Willow Creek beckoned them, a tantalizing promise of answers buried deep within the town's history. Determined to uncover the truth, they resolved to follow the trail, no matter where it led. The next morning, they returned to the manor with fresh resolve. The house was still eerie, but without the oppressive presence of the Phantom, it felt different, almost peaceful. They gathered around the hidden chamber in the basement, where the altar and the strange symbols now seemed like relics of a dark past. Sarah held up the key. "We need to find where this fits." The note mentioned something beneath. Maybe there's a hidden passage or a cellar we missed. They began to search the manor again, this time with renewed purpose. Every creak of the floorboards and flicker of the shadows felt like clues leading them closer to their goal. Emily, with her keen sensitivity, was the first to feel a draft coming from beneath a large, ornate rug in the foyer. "Here," she called, motioning for the others. They rolled back the rug to reveal a trapdoor, its edges worn with age. The key fit perfectly into the lock, and with a heavy creak, the door swung open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. "Stay close," Mark said, gripping his flashlight tightly as they descended into the unknown. The stairs led to a tunnel, its walls lined with rough stone. The air was damp and cold, and the only sounds were their footsteps echoing off the walls. The tunnel seemed to stretch on forever, twisting and turning in a labyrinthine maze. After what felt like an eternity, they emerged into a cavernous chamber. The walls were covered in ancient carvings and symbols, far older than anything they had seen in the manor. In the center of the chamber stood a massive stone altar, similar to the one they had found above, but more elaborate and sinister. "This must be it," James whispered, his voice reverberating in the vast space. The heart of Willow Creek's secrets. As they approached the altar, they noticed an old, leather-bound book lying open on its surface. The pages were filled with cryptic symbols and diagrams, detailing rituals and incantations in a language none of them recognized. Sarah carefully picked up the book. "This must be the source of the Lockwood's power. If we can decipher it, we might be able to understand the true nature of the pact they made." They spent hours examining the book and the carvings on the walls. Emily's artistic eye helped them sketch out the symbols, while James recorded everything on his camera for further analysis. The deeper they delved, the more they realized that the Lockwoods had tapped into something ancient and malevolent. "There's a recurring symbol here," Emily pointed out, tracing a star-shaped emblem with her finger. "It appears in the book and on the walls." Sarah nodded. "It's a sigil, a mark of the entity the Lockwood summoned. If we can find out more about this symbol, we might be able to break any lingering ties it has to Willow Creek." Their investigation led them to an inscription on the wall, partially obscured by moss and age. Mark carefully cleared away the debris to reveal the text, which seemed to be a warning or a prophecy. "When the star descends and the shadows rise, the town's fate is sealed," Sarah read aloud. "It's like a riddle. Maybe it's a clue to what happened here." As they pondered the meaning of the inscription, Emily noticed something odd about the altar. "There's a compartment here," she said, prying at a hidden latch. With a click, the compartment opened to reveal a small, black stone inscribed with the same star-shaped sigil. The stone pulsed with an otherworldly energy, filling the chamber with a faint, ominous glow. "This must be the source of their power," James said, his voice filled with awe. "If we can destroy it, maybe we can end the curse for good." But as he reached for the stone, the chamber began to shake violently. The carvings on the walls glowed with a sinister light, and a low, guttural growl echoed through the tunnels. "We've awakened something," Mark shouted, pulling James back. "We need to get out of here." They scrambled back through the tunnel, the walls closing in around them as the ground trembled. The sense of dread grew with every step, and the air became thick with the presence of something ancient and angry. They burst out of the trapdoor, slamming it shut behind them. The manor groaned under the strain, but the shaking stopped, leaving them breathless and shaken. "We can't just leave it like this," Sarah said, clutching the black stone. "We have to find a way to destroy it and end this once and for all." Back in the safety of Sarah's apartment, they regrouped and examined their findings. The stone pulsed faintly, its energy contained but still potent. They knew they had to find a way to break its power, but the ancient texts offered no clear solution. Emily suggested seeking help from an expert in the occult. There's a professor at the university who specializes in ancient rituals and symbols. Maybe he can help us. Professor Robert Langley was intrigued by their story and agreed to meet with them. After examining the stone and their notes, he confirmed their suspicions. This sigil represents an ancient entity, one that thrives on fear and sacrifice, he explained. Destroying the stone will be difficult, but it's not impossible. You'll need to perform a counter-ritual, one that severs the entity's connection to this world. He provided them with a detailed ritual, warning them of the dangers they would face. This entity will not give up its power easily. You must be prepared for anything. Armed with new knowledge, the friends returned to Willow Creek one final time. They set up the ritual in the manor's grand hall, the black stone at the center of their preparations. Candles flickered in the darkness, casting long shadows on the walls. As Emily began the incantations, the air grew heavy with tension. The walls of the manor seemed to close in, and the temperature plummeted. The phantom lullaby began to play again, a sinister reminder of the entity's presence. The ground shook violently, and shadows twisted and writhed around them. The friends held their ground, focusing on the ritual. Emily's voice grew louder, more powerful, as she chanted the final incantation. With a blinding flash of light, the black stone shattered, sending shards of darkness into the air. The shaking stopped, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The manor was silent once more, the phantom lullaby gone for good. Exhausted but victorious, the friends knew they had finally broken the curse of Willow Creek. The town, once shrouded in darkness and fear, felt lighter, as if a great burden had been lifted. As they left the manor for the last time, the first light of dawn broke over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the town. They had uncovered the truth, faced the darkness, and emerged stronger for it. Willow Creek would always bear the scars of its haunted past, but thanks to Sarah, Mark, Emily, and James, its future was brighter. Their adventure had tested their courage and friendship, and they knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. And as they drove away from Willow Creek, a sense of peace settled over them. They had conquered the darkness, and their bond was stronger than ever. The haunting of Willow Creek was over, but the memories of their journey would stay with them forever, a testament to their bravery and determination.